Hi Ali, I want to ask you some questions about the Great Gatsby. So the first thing is, do you think chapter 1 relates to the Roaring Twenties?
Yes, of course.
How do you think chapter 1 in the book Great Gatsby can relate to the Roaring Twenties?
The 1920s of America and the Great Gatsby have a lot in common, which some of the significant relations are shown in chapter 1. Comparing the Great Gatsby with the Roaring Twenties indicates how they might have similarities, as both places have a high value and include many people who are rich. We can relate this to the Roaring Twenties because during this period, almost all the servants were dark-skinned, were segregated. In the picture, here we can see the servants have dark skin tone, and in the Great Gatsby, most servants had dark skin tone, which same thing as in the Roaring Twenties. And then, Adam, I would like to ask you a question. Do you think males had power over females in chapter 2?
Yes, for sure. I think males had very high power over females. So males had very high power compared to females, and this is proved in chapter 2. This is shown when the quote, "Making a short left movement, Tom Buchman broke her nose with his open hand." So he slapped her, which shows male power over female. The second thing is that this shows that Tom's character is powerful and masculine, and Wilson's wife is weak, and her broken nose is a symbol of male power and signifies how females weren't powerful in the 1920s at all. This enhances the theme of male power, in which at that time females weren't powerful like men, and they were looked at as material things. But men, on the other hand, had all the power and control at that time. So when a man hits a woman at that time, you can't expect her to be able to do the same because society placed her as the weak part. So Ali, do you agree with what I said?
Yes, I agree with what you said. I totally agree. This is even found as how the narrator explains women in chapter 3 when he mentioned what she wore. The large room was full of people. Evidence for this claim. The large room was full of people. One of the girls in yellow was playing the piano, and beside her stood a tall, red-haired young lady from a famous chorus engaged in a song. To analyze this, he mentioned that the girl was wearing yellow, which can have a good and bad meaning, but it's probably bad due to criticism. This shows that the narrator focuses on women and what they're doing and doesn't focus on what men are doing, because he thinks that women should be silent in society. This has significance in which it enhances feminist criticism due to the narrator explaining what the girl was wearing and judging her instead of judging a man, and this showed how women are criticized and have less power, because at the time you couldn't criticize that men were wearing. Adam, okay. I have a question for you. Do you think people follow the rules of prohibition at the time?
I think that people didn't follow the prohibition at that time at all.
Well, why do you think people didn't follow prohibition?
Well, for me, people never followed prohibition at this, and this is seen in the story when a woman got drunk by drinking too much champagne in chapter 3. And to analyze this, I would say that the woman drank a lot of champagne, which shows that prohibition wasn't followed at all in the first place, in which she had access to the champagne. This shows that the setting is full of alcoholic drinks, which were banned by the government at that time. And this alcohol that she drank signifies many things like lack of obedience, carelessness, and lack of respect of the rules that were set by the government at that time. This shows that the Roaring Twenties was a time in which people were careless about the law and were still consuming illegal substances and not caring about prohibition, and never cared about the government's rules of the ban of consuming and trading of alcohol. Now I want to ask you another question, Ali.
Okay, sure.
Have you seen a big difference in class in The Great Gatsby?
Yes, I have. I saw a big difference in social class in chapter 4. A big difference in class was shown in the beginning of chapter 4. Evidence I found that shows that there's a big difference in social class in the beginning of chapter 4 is they were careless people, Tom and Daisy. They smashed up things and then retreated back into their money and let other people clean up the mess they had made. To analyze this piece of evidence, we can infer that Tom and Daisy are rich, and when they break and smash things up, they have servants and people to clean after them. We can also see that Tom is rushing up the stairs and in a hurry and not giving any attention to the servants. We can also see that Tom. We can also look at the background where Tom is, and like while reading, we can see that the background is in a rich environment. Yes.
Okay, Ali. So yes, I agree with you. And my claim is that I think that the difference in class is seen in this story when Tom hit Myrtle in the nose. So the evidence is making a short left movement. Tom Butchman broke her nose with his open hand. So this shows a lot of things, including difference in class in this chapter. Because she's a poor woman, and at the end of the day, when Tom Butchman hit her in the nose, she couldn't do anything about what he did, and this signifies that she's poor in society, and it shows that the difference in class, and due to her being very poor, she had no response about her broken nose or about how Tom physically abused her. And Wilson's wife, which is Myrtle, her broken nose is a symbol of difference in class and the power of difference in class. Because if she was rich and she had a big family, she could have had the right to take revenge on him for hitting her in the face. But because she's poor and powerless, she has no power and no right to do to Tom the same thing. This enhances the theme of difference in class, because she couldn't hit him back or make her family get revenge. And this is due to that she, at the end of the day, she was poor and he was rich. And at that time, poor people are like nothing, completely powerless and worthless to rich people. And poor people at that time were like they didn't exist, and it didn't matter to the rich people it didn't matter to them how poor people feel or how they feel when they get abused. And that's it. This was our podcast.
Thank you for listening, and yes, thank you.
Thank you guys for listening to our podcast. Bye.